Hey everyone, John here from All Miniatures Great and Small, and today we're going to be doing another Flames of War unit overview. This time we're looking at the ISU-152 Heavy Self-Propelled Battery from the Soviet Bagration book, late war monster tank that the Soviets can field. Alright, so this is very similar to the ISU-122, if you saw my unit overview for that, and shares a lot, including a chassis with the IS-2. So what does this tank bring to the table? Well, let's talk stats, shall we? Alright, so the ISU-152 is hit on a 3+ aggressive rating. So it's not easy, it's not hard to miss, I guess I should say. Similar to its stablemate, the ISU-122, it has a front armor of 9, side armor of 8, top armor of 2. It has a motivation of 4+, 5+ on the counterattack because it's a self-propelled gun, but a very nice 3+ last stand check for its motivation because of the not one step back rule. Then under skill, we've got a trained 4+, and in assault, it's squishing guys on a 5+ again because of that self-propelled gun penalty. As far as speed, it's pretty standard. Tactical 10, terrain-12, cross-country 18, road-20, with a 3+ cross-check. Weapons-wise, it has a giant 152mm gun. That's where the ISU-152 comes from. And it can be fired in 2 modes. In direct fire mode, it has a paltry 20-inch range. With a rate of fire of 1 halted or moving, anti-tank 13, firepower is auto, with brutal, forward firing, and slow firing. So very similar to all of the big Soviet guns. Brutal means infantry gun teams, unarmored tank teams will be re-rolling successful saves, while slow firing means it's 1 harder to hit if you are moving. So these guys just do not hit their enemies when they move. In addition to direct fire, you can also fire the 152 as a bombardment. It has a range of 64 inches. It is artillery with an anti-tank rating of 3 and a 2+ firepower. It is forward firing with no other notes. You can optionally purchase a 12.7 AA machine gun. I believe it's 1 point for the entire battery. And that gives you 3 shots halted, 2 shots moving, anti-tank 4, 5+ firepower, and self-defense AA. So in case your German opponents are running some Stukas. So it's again a very similar stat-wise to the ISU-122. However, there's one thing to mention about this tank. This tank is more expensive than the it's more expensive than the ISU-122 and equal in cost to the IS-2. So that is something we're going to consider and talk about. We can see here a unit of 3 of them, like you're seeing here, is 22 points. I've got them equipped with the AA machine guns, so actually this unit, as you see it here, would be 23 points to field, whereas a unit of 3 IS-2s would be 22 points, machine gun included. And a unit of 3 ISU-122s, these bad boys, would be only 19 points, 20 if you include the machine gun. So they're expensive. They're more expensive than an IS-2 if you give them that machine gun. So why are they so expensive? Well, we saw the stats. I think you're paying a lot for the artillery, 2+ firepower on that artillery blast, and the auto brutal gun. Those can be quite scary. So is it, I guess we'll save that conversation towards the end. Is it better to take these guys over the ISU-122s? I think there's a little bit of room for debate, but we'll have that discussion later. All right, so let's talk about matchups. Now, if you saw the IS-2 and the ISU-122, I matched up German armor against it. Again, you know, we'll just do it really quick. We've got a Panther here with front armor 9, Tiger would be the same front armor, versus 13 is pretty respectable, but you only have a 20-inch range on your main gun, 40-inch range on his main gun. That's 2 turns of driving at full speed to even get into range while he's shooting at you. That's not that's not good. The stablemate, the ISU-152, has a 28-inch range, so that's still not good, but these guys at 20 are really hobbled. They have to get close. Really, that cannon has the same range as the 50 cal gun, or sorry, the 12.7 millimeter machine gun on the tank. So I don't think these are meant to be used in direct fire against other tanks. So that comparison is kind of moot. You can win, obviously, if you're going against medium tanks, heavy tanks. You probably don't want to tangle with unless they are charging your lines. Something that I absolutely love about these guys is the auto firepower. Because even when I have 2+ firepower, I roll a 1. It always happens. Like if I have a 2+ firepower, I tend to roll more fails than if I have a 3+ firepower. It's just fate. But with auto, you take that die roll out of the equation. If they fail their armor roll, they're just destroyed. There's no firepower check, and that is so nice. That is so nice. But they got to get close enough to let you do that. And most savvy German players, like Jake and Jacob and Sam and Mark and all the other AMGAS guys, know to keep their distance and not let that happen. So the nice thing about these guys is even if they do keep their distance, even if they stay away from the direct fire gun, they still have that bombardment. Now the bombardment that this unit has is better than the ISU-122. So if you're taking these primarily for artillery purposes, the 152 is superior. They're very close in stats, a little bit shorter range, but in artillery bombardment with anti-tank 3 and firepower 2+, it just means that if you range in on gun teams or infantry teams, they are they're going to be failing. You're going to be hitting your firepowers, and that's just trouble for those guys. So it's really nice, a really good bombardment, and even against tanks, it's a threat. Everything again except a Tiger with a top armor 2 has to worry about you. Granted, it's a small threat. That Panther, if he's bombarded, he needs to roll a 1 to fail. But if he rolls that 1, you destroy him on a 2+. I mean, that's great. So it's not something, it's a long shot, but it's not something they can completely ignore. If this guy is 40 inches away from me, I'm not going to charge forward and duel. I might try to find a defensive position, hide from him, and bombard that Panther or that infantry position from far away. So again, it gives you some options, but rather than pull out all the German tanks, let's compare these guys against their stablemates. The IS-2, obviously same price. That's a little bit more expensive if you add the machine gun, but pretty much a wash. The IS-2 has 1 better armor on the front. Its gun has 8 inches more range and better anti-tank rating, 14 instead of 13, but a 2+ firepower instead of auto. So I think the 28-inch range is important, particularly if you're dueling medium tanks. So I would give the main gun in direct fire mode to the IS-2. Artillery, obviously, IS-2 has no ability to fire an artillery bombardment. The ISU-152 has the best bombardment out of all of these self-propelled artillery batteries. So with 64-inch range, that artillery template, you're not going to, there's not going to be much that can hide from you or outrange you. So it is a toss-up. Otherwise, they're the same movement, they're the same side armor, top armor. The ISU can't assault, but you don't want to assault. Really, the idea is you want your ISU-152s bombarding and then rolling up and destroying key positions, a key gun team. If they have a dug-in 88, you want to roll these guys up, or infantry dug into buildings with a brutal auto firepower gun. These guys can be quite deadly. Alright, so now let's talk about this great debate. When I was building these, when I had the boxes, I polled my fellow AmGas players asking which one I should build, the 122 or the 152, because I don't play Soviets, and Jacob and Sam both are very experienced Soviet players. And I think the consensus was the 122 is the better overall around tank, all-rounder. Its bombardment isn't quite as good, but its direct fire gun has better range and a slightly higher anti-tank, and those are big tipping factors. Plus, it's cheaper. That's like 6.5 points. That's like 7 points. So when you start adding that up, I could get some of these and add a unit of scout cars for the same price as a unit of those. So for most applications, yes, the 122 is probably the better choice between the two. But you'll notice I built a platoon of those because I think that short barrel gun just looks awesome. Right? And I think in certain situations, the 152 will shine in. I think in city fighting, I think these guys will do pretty good. I think that auto firepower is not something to sneeze at. They are pricey. I don't see them included in a lot of tournament lists, but they're cool. They have several neat tools in their toolbox and can handle certain situations. Again, infantry, heavy cats, you probably want to stay away from them, but otherwise you can pretty much handle most of what the Germans can throw at you. Alright, so how can you field these guys? Exactly like you can field the ISU-122. You can field them as part of a heavy self-propelled artillery regiment, where they are the core platoons. You'd have a HQ of 1 IS-2, and then I think up to 4, they're called batteries, not platoons or companies in this formation, with up to 2 to 5 of these in a platoon. So theoretically, in a core formation, see, I said platoon, in a battery, you could have up to 20 of these guys, depending on your point level, I guess, which would be pretty frightening. But I think that Soviet armies tend to work better, at least what I'm seeing so far, as combined armed formations. I don't think an army of all heavy tanks is going to. Sure, you're going to hit the list that's just a perfect matchup and you will squash it, but then there will be other lists that will squash you. Having an all-around list, I think, is better. Alright, so besides the actual self-propelled heavy regiment itself, you can add these as a support platoon to any of the other formations. It's a good choice, although I think if you're going that route, adding a platoon of IS-2s, or if you want the artillery bombardment, adding a platoon of 122s might be better. You might be better served with that. But that said, my final thought on these guys is I like them. I think they look cool. I think that they, even though the IS-122 I feel is a better option than them, I don't think the points are that big or the stats are that different that you'd be an idiot to take them over the 122 all the time. I think it's just another choice. It's just not quite as good a choice. That doesn't mean if you take them you're going to lose, but it does mean you're going to have to find a way to play to their strengths, which is that superior bombardment, that auto firepower at close range. If you can maximize and leverage those stats on these tanks, they're going to shine. So there you go, guys. That is a look at the ISU-152 mighty Soviet steel. I do want to mention that we do have a Patreon for Flames of War. And on that Patreon, we release a battle report a month exclusive to our Patreon viewers. So that's in addition to what we release on YouTube as far as normal Flames of War and other gaming content. So if you're hungry for more Flames of War, check out our Patreon for access to exclusive battle reports and more. In addition to that, please do check us out on Facebook at All Miniatures Great and Small. We have, we have stuff that we are up to all the time, and we post photos, and you can see what we're doing. And we love interacting with you guys. Facebook's pretty good for that. And then here on YouTube, please do let us know what you think in the comments down below. What do you guys think about the ISU-152 versus 122 debate? What has happened if you guys have used these? I'd like to hear. So also here on YouTube, please do give us a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. It really helps the channel, as well as click that bell so you receive notification when we release new content. I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and keep on wargaming.